Welcome to this seminar. My name is Fleming Luo. I'm the host of this webinar. I'm the adjunct professor in the College of Engineering, University of Texas, El Paso, and I'm also with MS Technologies and the Shenzhen Zhi Medical Imaging Healthcare. As Corona virus is spreading globally, it's crucial for healthcare professionals to gain knowledge about this pandemic and prepare adequate clinical response to the threat. Thanks for the experts from the radiology infectious disease in China, and led by Professor Hongjun Li. And thank you for the leadership from the Chinese Congress of Radiology, led by Professor Health Commission. So we have, and also lots of experts, we have compiled these guidelines for imaging diagnosis for COVID-19. In the beginning, I'm going to have a brief people to give a brief introduction. So Professor Xu and Liu will give the introduction. Professor Liu is the director in the Department of Imaging and Medicine and the Nuclear Medicine of Shanghai Zhengshan Hospitals. Professor Liu is also the chairman of the Asian Thoracic Radiology Society and the president-elect of the Chinese Society of Radiology. His main research is in the field of chest disease screening, especially early lung cancer screening and the imaging diagnosis. And our next expert, the panels will be Professor Haobo Xu. Professor Xu is the director, chairman of the Department of Radiology in Zhongnan Hospital of Wuhan University. He is in the front line to fight COVID-19. He's also vice chairman of the infectious radiology branch. And he's also deputy chairman for neurology committee in Radiology Society of China. So this is myself. Okay. So let's welcome Professor Xu and Liu to give us a few words to start this webinar.
Okay. Thanks to the introduction from Professor Liu. Ladies and gentlemen, and dear fellow experts, good evening. First, my hospital, I am from the Changchun Hospital. As the introduction is Zhongshan Hospital. I have a correction. It's my pleasure here to participate in this webcast video meeting on the COVID-19. Since last year, December, new coronavirus pneumonia has been spreading rapidly in the world. Europe and the United States are now under severe circumstances. More than 189 countries and 340,000 people are infected, and this keep growing rapidly. Imaging diagnosis plays an important role in the detection, diagnosis, quantification, and evaluation of the epidemic. How to improve the understanding of the disease and provide timely help and information for clinical diagnosis and treatment is very critical. Professor Hongjun Li is the chairman of Chinese Radiology Professional Infection Committee from the Chinese Society of the Radiology. He and his colleagues have put a lot of effort into the outbreak from the start. While fighting against the epidemic, he has also written many scientific papers, even include the guidelines he will introduce tonight. It has been a great help and a guide to the prevention and control of the disease in our country. This evening, Professor Li is here to give the keynote presentation focusing on the imaging and diagnosis of COVID-19 and related clinical experience, focus mainly about the guidelines from the Chinese experts on the current situations. This kind of sharing of this knowledge, I think, is very significant. I do hope tonight's meeting can let more colleagues worldwide know more about the imaging and diagnosis of COVID-19 and understand its essential role in the prevention and control of this epidemic. Also, I hope this seminar can play a positive role promoting and deepen the understanding between international peers and experts, and to contribute to the control of this worldwide epidemic. Finally, I do hope the epidemic can be controlled as soon as possible. May the people in the affected areas healthy and happy. I wish all of you have a happy and healthy life. And thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you very much. That's my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Liu. Next, we would like to have the Professor Hongjun Li give a few words for the introduction before his webinar. And like Professor Liu mentioned, Professor Lin is renowned in this the infection and the infirmary disease. Professor Li is also the editor-in-chief for the radiology of infectious disease. And I want to also want to make another announcement is during the webinar, because of time constraint, so we would like to please hold all your questions and send your questions on the lower right of the corner. So the people we can expert panel can compile them and they can answer the question, repeat the question, answer the question in the end. So with that, let's have Professor Li to give a few words about this webinar first.
Okay, thanks, Fleming. Dear Professor, good morning. I'm honored to speak. I'm honored speaker is here. Everyone know COVID-19 epidemic has spread to the world and become the enemy of global people. And now global emergency declares World Health Organization. In order to fight against COVID-19, it's privileged to share image diagnosis experience of COVID-19. Radiological expertise is often crucial in guiding medical management and treatment.
The topic again will be the guidelines for imaging diagnosis of COVID-19. So, Professor Li again. Please start, Professor Li.
Dear Professor and everyone, today morning I want to share guideline for image diagnosis of COVID-19 2 edition 2020. First, I want to introduce about speaker information. My name is Hongjun Li. I'm interested in research, radiology, infectious disease. I'm working in UN Hospital, Capital Medical University, Beijing, in China. UN Hospital is a specialized hospital in the clinical and research infectious disease. UN Medical Alliance composed 225 unit hospitals from 25 provinces in China. It's my team. The goals share with you about Chinese radiologists it prepares a guideline for image diagnosis COVID-19 to set up professional standards, quality diagnosis, benefit to more patients in the world, to establish the infection disease radiology committee worldwide. You know, without autonomy, there is no medicine. To understand the meaning of the medicine, you must go deeper to prove. The purpose is the tracing and the verification of image data. 2007, a multi-source heterogeneous data sampler database of HIV/AIDS was established with the certified by a hub. In 2004, owners of SARS patient autopsied by the infection disease by Frological. You can see autopsy lung surface published brown color, pulmonary hemorrhage, and edema sclerosis. This is pathology manifestation. In 2009, autopsy of patient H1N1 autopsy of patient H1N1 in 2009 in number 20. Also, autopsy by pathology and anatomy of COVID-19. Basic pathological change. We know localized or diffuse acute uveitis and intestinal inflammation, including early stage and progression stage and critical stage. During research, published more books, international peer review and impact top 50 passenger by Springer. For example, radiology HIV/AIDS and radiology infection disease. Radiology, the books of the radiology HIV/AIDS. Professor Narita written book review published by Clinical Infection Disease. Recommendation to field of the clinical radiology in HIV/AIDS. Commendation to radiology justice in the worldwide. Other books, radiology infectious disease. After published, international famous professor writing book review, commendation to radiologists in the world. Other books published by Springer and PMPH. Our outstanding contributions is a correlation of systemic, innovative theoretical system, technique specifications, guidelines, standards, discipline system, and diagnosis and treatment testing platform for worldwide infection disease imaging. Breakthrough modern imaging technology, infection disease at home and board field, the academic and application gaps. And permitted the develop infection disease prevention and treatment technology in China. The world's
the world's first systematic establishment of infection imaging. Theoretical system Springer project published work in 2019. Included radiology infectious and inflammatory, and radiology HBV related liver cancer. My team to do the first radiological diagnostic criteria for infection disease based on evidence-based medicine data analysis is published in December 2019 in China. Infection disease is about an important patient group with its pathological characteristics, imaging and particularity. Image infection disease is a special group. So we want to establish the theoretical system and subject contribution system in China. First established the world only radiology journal, radiology infectious disease. Past 4 years, invited by RSNA to participate in International Radiology Editorial Film and the International English Magazine membership unit. Over the past 22 years, we have led the team to publish a large number of articles, publications, and studies, guideline, and the creation of international journal radiology infectious disease. It's hoped that more international radiology experts will be joined to work together for radiology infectious disease in the future. This is my email address. If you have any interesting things, contact me from email address. 2. Guideline image diagnosis with COVID-19. In 2019 NCOV virus transmission route. We know mechanism replication SARS-CoV-2 after entering into alveolar cavity through respiratory tract or close contact. It combines with the ACE2 cytoaspirating of alveolar valve epithelial cells. Initial inflammatory factor storm to cause alveolar valve edema and congestion, followed activation, cellulose activation, epithelial cell necrosis, and shedding from hyaline membranous macrophage in closed body. Despite the alveolar cavity, taking pulmonary lobules as a unity. CT show conical high density opacity. If multiple pulmonary lobules fails, larger sheet lack high density opacity the former. Now, combination COVID-19 diagnosis creative index us, included epidemiology history, COVID-19 collected diagnostic got standard. CT image features, clinical some photom and science, other laboratory evaluation indicators. For example, C-reactive protein, lymphocyte. Naming of novel coronavirus since December 2019, Wuhan city has been unexplained pneumonia cases. Gen7, it was detected as kind of novel coronavirus. Gen10, whole genome sequence was unknown. Gen12, WHO named it to 2019 NCOV. February 8, the Nation Health Committee named it NCP in China. February 11, WHO named it COVID-19. Every day, new data from real-time updates worldwide COVID-19 outbreak. More 100 country outbreak, very serious in the world. COVID-19 overview, etiological, correlative. Coronavirus is RNA virus belonging to beta genus of novel coronavirus. Genetic characteristics, NCOV, SARS-CoV, and MERS-CoV, birds of the same family. The homology with bit SARS-like coronavirus is more than 85%. Pathogenesis, ACE2 is wide expressed alveolar 2 epithelial cells and with color endothelial cells. Which to notice is immune system and produce molecules such as IL-2, IL-6, GSCF, IB10, and MCP1 to check cytokine storms. Physical and chemical characteristics is very sensitive to ultraviolet rays and heat, and can be effectively deactivated by 46 degrees in posture for 30 minutes, or either feather of 35 passenger alcohol. Source of infection, the targeted organ or novel coronavirus is lung, intestinal tract, liver, and nervous system also have a slight damage. Transmission routes. The population is generally susceptible and air, droplets, and contact spread. The transmission routes, racial and digestive tract have yet to be clarified. Image features. Nation have and have commissions diagnosis and treatment plan included important indicators of clinical diagnosis. Diagnosis gold standards, various new classic detection and gene sequence. Nucleic acid detection has strong specificity and poor sensitivity. People negative in various nucleic acid testing still need to under close observation. Now we want to overview our novel coronavirus clinical typing, including mild, general, severe, critical, immediate-assisted staging, including the early staging, progression staging, outcome staging, and the severe critical staging. How do you diagnose the clinical suspected cases? Included 2 points, included epidemiological history and clinical manifestation. Anyone with a epidemiological history added to clinical manifestation, you can confirm the cases, suspected cases. If no clear epidemiological history, only 3 of the clinical manifestation, you can diagnose the suspected cases. Clinical suspected cases added novel coronavirus nucleic acid positive, you can diagnose the COVID-19. We completed imaging protocol for COVID-19 detection. Stronger completed stronger CT test fee, 1 millimeter layer thickness. X-ray is a recommended procedure week. COVID early stage. Included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Linear density, GGO opacity, in which second blood vessels and brachial bands pass through. Leadership. Grid shape is spiral, and fan shape is mostly consistent with an atomic shape or primary label. Leader number, single or multiple. Leader location, subperioral and out the zones, arterial, middle, and lower lung fields are common. There is focal single lung labular seeds, about 10 millimeter to 25 millimeter. Lung injury is based on lung label. CT feature is consistent with an anatomic structure of lung label. Show subperioral conical wedge shaped or spherical shape. It's early CT finding of COVID-19. This patient's male, 31 years old. Diagnosis: novel coronavirus nucleic acid positive. CT feature: subperioral focal ground glass density, opacity, or grade opacity in units of primary labelars. Early stage Physiology manifestation show you a velar veil edema, exudation, a serious fluid, a velar cavity, accumulation of inflammatory cells, thickening of a primary sputum, and formation of a small amount of the alien membrane. You can see one day, first day. Now, imaging is 4D. You can see here patch density GGO, small GGO is increasing GGO. This patient's male, 37 years old, admitted to hospital for fever and cough for 2 days. You click card positive. The CT feature, you can see this one, this one, this one, this one. Bronchial inflated sign of CT. Other early patients. CT feature, you can see multiple pulmonary lobules can be involved in the early stage, and the subperitoneal focal ground glass density of CT are accompanied by brachial passage, during which blood vessels second pass through the OPCT. But there is no material fusion and consolidation of CT, which are early manifestation. This case is early stage. CT features show you lung lobules in the early stage. In the multiple lung lobules can be involved. The subperitoneal focal ground glass density of CT accompanying a brachial passage, during which blood vessels thicken and pass through the OPCT. But there is no material fusion and consolidation of CT. All of which are early manifestation. The progression stage, CT finding of COVID-19. Layer density, regional GGO density increased with second blood vessels brachial bands. Layer morphology, multiple pulmonary lobules are involved fused in the band shape. Or grade GGO opacity are more common. Number of the layers, generally multiple. Layer location is more common on the outside, the pleasure in the middle or lower lung fields on both sides. Division on speed to middle then of the lung fields. Layer C's. Original GGO or graded opacity scope expanding. Focal multi-labeler or multi-segmental lung fusion is opposite. CT manifestation show that the Paving stall cell. Paving stall cell is a CT feature of alveolar protein osseous. However, it's more seen in novel coronavirus patients with underlying disease or elderly patients due to lymphocyte aggregation, cellulose activation, fibroblast proliferation, labeler and spectral seeking and grid detecting often see. Immunohistochemistry, you can see positive reaction of epithelial cells during various practice. This case is a progression stage. The CT manifestation for show enhancement of CT accompanied peripheral renin and pleasure, during which blood vessels thickened. Primary level of CT measured with each other and local consolidation of CT well or progression manifestation. The pathology manifestation show alveolar veil thickening, cellulose activation, necrosis type 2 epithelial cells, proliferation of type 2 epithelial cells, accumulation of inflammatory cells, thickening of primary sputum. What outcome stage? Elasticity, digitality decreased. The leader show called lack of CT roof lung texture. Number of the leader, generally leader are reduced or completely absorbed. Location of focus, subpleural and primary field of lung field. Leader sees the leader shakes of completely absorbed. Laboratory lymphocytes retain normal and C reactive protein decreased. It's progression stage. After treatment, you can see dissipation stage. Better before treatment. This case CT manifestation show multiple focal high density of CT in both lung fields on the 50 of the onset. Observation improved on the 8 days. Show streak of CT only. The case is the outcome stage. Stage features show high density. Observation both lungs improved obviously and intended improvement appeared. You can see before treatment is 7 days after treatment is better. What's COVID-19 severe stage? Large density, Their density. The original high density opacity increased by 50 passengers with 48 hours. Consolidation. Name it white line. Rubbing of fan shift high density, opacity field, and consolidation. Usually involving both lines. The subpolar and outer zones of the middle or lower line fields from both sides involve the medial zone of line fields. Multiple line segmental bilateral line fields. Consolidation, primary level multiple line segmental. You can see white line. Macrophage chlorine body formation. Larger amount of transparent membrane. Color piece of cell work second, larger amount of garbage deposition and primary consolidation in alveolar cavity. It equals then. Severe stage fading of COVID-19. The case male, 46 years old. Cough, expectoration. Epidemiological history, close contact with people from Wuhan. The reason fever studied 6 days ago. The temperature 37 degree. Diagnosis SARS-CoV-2 positive. Pathology, macrophage in chlorine body formation, a large number of transparent film formation. Cell work skeleton collapse, a large number of garbage deposition, and alveolar cavity, immunohistochemical positive reaction. CT manifestation show you density enhancement opacity of two lines with larger sheet fusion, some of which are consolidation. You can see here. Each case is a severe and critical stage. CT manifestation for show you the consolidation. The consolidation of the two lines is white line. Show high density opacity because the alveolar filled with a larger number of phagocyte sheets and neutrophil fragments. And alveolar loss against exchange capacity and become consolidation. How do you imagine finding COVID-19 pediatric cases, infants, and toddlers? Low incidence rate, mostly mild general cases. They are X-ray. Early stage, play-film can be negative. Abnormality is found in the early stage of the lesion, and the misdiagnosis rate is high. X-ray finding show you bronchiolitis, pre-progression stage. You can see localized or picture opacity along field. mainly ultrazone. HRCT, you can see that can be a normal, early single or multipolar pitch, or DGO. Progression stage, single or multipolar pitch field of lung are accompanied by consolidation of CT, mainly distributed along brachial bundle or dorsal segment of lung and subperitoneal of lung bottom. So air brachial grim. Several critical GGO with enlarged consolidation region. Its case 1 year old. No reason fever for 10 hours. The temperature 39 degrees, accompanied by raining and noise. Epidemiological history, COVID-19 close contact history. Nucleic acid detection, SARS-CoV-2 positive. CT manifestation show you early display. The second biology detector in the distal segmental was lungs, and grade of CT in the lung field. This case male, 4 years old, admitted for fever, cough for 5 days. Her father worked in Wuhan and returned home from Wuhan 7 days ago. Laboratory examination. Novel causal and various nucleic acid testing positive. CT future show involvement of multiple primary labelars in the distal segment of the lower right lung. Tendency of fusion. You can see here multiple primary labules in the dorsal segmental of the lower right lung. Tendency of fusion. How do you know image finding of COVID-19 pagency cases? This patient is a female, 26 years old, 28 weeks pageant. Seeing a doctor due to a fever, highest body temperature 38.5 degree. New survey netting positive. Mostly local in the outline band. Early show you multiple ground glass density with consolidation of CT. Make a repeat progress. Several cases. Often bacterial lung involvement and focus fusion, patients, larger sheet consolidation, inflatable brachial sign with pleural effusion. How do you know image finding COVID-19 elderly cases? This case, male, 72 years old. Very new nucleic acid positive. CT manifestation show you the density of CT, a small flock ground glass was achieved in the early stage of the first day. After 3 days, the later increasing in progressing stage on the third day. The laser follows on the 17 days. The later expanding the scope on the 9 days. White lung appeared and the progress was repeated. The point: the elderly patients have a poor resistance and are often accompanied by basic disease. The disease is more likely to progress repeatedly into severe and critical types. This is the elderly case. Adelaide disease. The patient is a 35 years old male living in Wuhan, admitted hospital for nearly 1 month after treatment of left lung cancer. Diagnosis: nucleic acid test positive. The CT show great GGO opportunity and pleasure both lungs. Other elderly cases, CT manifestation show nearly show progress imaging, fusion of two lung layers, proteal consolidation, and hand density of CT. Proven to progress into white lung within 48 hours, entering severe stage. The image finding are conveying elderly case with underlying disease. This patient is 73 years old, male. History, database, mellitus, nucleic acid test positive. CT manifestation show initial diagnosis show progressing image finding. You can see subpleural binding ground glass density opacity of both lungs. Patients with underlying disease early progress into a severe stage. How do you know image finding are convenient specific case population? This case male, 20 years old, at a meeting in Wuhan, fever and cold. Temperature 39.6 degrees. First day admission. COV nucleic acid negative, but CT manifestation show added upon nucleic acid testing negative. Just the fever with no other symptoms, but other symptoms. But the computer tomographer show pitch density increasing opacity after 4 days. Nucleic acid negative still, but CT show increasing opacity, increasing opacity after 7 days. COV nucleic acid positive. CT finding show opacity increasing opacity after 10 days. Chest CT show cold opacity, focal observation, COV nucleic acid negative. CT manifestation better than before. Other specific case population. 72-year-old male, told in Japan, no symptom. The CT features ground glass density of CT and the left lung subpleural, with the second blood vessels passing through. The main point, a clinical concealment, no symptoms, no click acid negative, but CT finding of this patient proceedings that of the clinical. This is the blood vessels passing through. Other specific case population. CT show GGO and the subpleural of the right lung distal segmental, but the new click acid is still negative. A COVID image diagnostic standard. Generally, diagnosis is made according to epidemiological history, clinical manifestation, laboratory results, and image finding. Clinically suspected cases, fewer patients also have any of following epidemic characteristics. 1. Travel or contact with a confirmed case and suspect cases within 1-2 weeks. Having lived or worked in an clustered outbreak environment within 1-2 weeks, with any of the following clinical manifestation: cough, chest, tingling, short breath. 4. Laboratory examination show any of the following characteristics: lymphoma count decrease, CRP increasing. Image diagnostic standard of the COVID-19. Suspected case by imaging finding. Clinical suspected case and imaging examination find an alpha following characteristics or epidemiological history. Computer tomographer positive equal suspected cases. 1. Single and multiple subpleural pitch ground glass of CT. Second, blood vessels and thick walled bronchial of CT passing through. Great change of subpleural lower lobe of both lung, elderly patients with underlying disease. Sudden high fever, chills, focal multiple ground glass density of CT in both lungs, younger adults. Sudden high fever, singular multiple larger segmental fusion consolidation, and bronchial inflammation sign of both lungs. 5. Continuous fever for more than 3 days. Over 2 morphological density image features change in both lungs. COVID-19 suspected case by image. The patient's female, 40 years old, laboratory examination, WBC. Nucleic acid negative, and no symptoms. But CT manifestation show multiple focal ground glass density of CT is displayed in the subpleural and lung fields of both lungs. was COVID-19 image diagnostic standard. After 3-5 days of re-examination of CT and our chest X-ray of suspected cases, one of the following positive results was found. The regional subpleural particle ground glass of CT increased in scope and advanced toward the center of lung field, expanding the scope and density of the original ground glass of CT and the local interlobular spotter second. The second valve branch of CT appears in the original ground glass of CT, and the original subpleural ground glass of CT becomes solid. And the novel ground glass of CT appears in the lung field, expanding original consolidation region. Without ground glass of CT around, and there is novel ground glass of CT consolidation in the other areas. Consolidation of the original ground glass of CT. New consolidation later appears, accompanied by the one side or both side pleural effusion. Expanding the scope, increasing the amount of any one of the regional boundary polymorphs or density. The case show you one on the 10 days after the admission. CT manifestation show you ground glass fusion gradually and went to center of lung field on the 2 days, and 4 days, and 6 days. Each case COVID-19 image diagnostic standard follow case 33 years old male patient admitted to the hospital fever for 4 days. He worked and living in Wuhan. Laboratory examination show you here. COVID-19 nucleic acid positive. The point, imaging diagnosis cases can be comfort. Neuro COV nucleic acid is sputum, throat swab, lower respiratory tract secretion at the same time, and confirmation of COV by the next generation DNA sequencing. Different diagnosis between COVID-19 and family pneumonia. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. Second, Middle East respiratory syndrome, coronavirus pneumonia. Name is MERS. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. Name is SARS. Basic later conditions included pathology manifestation are included early stage and progression stage and outcome stage and others. You can see here specimen. This is this case show you early stage of the SARS. You can see here higher density than COVID-19. GGO. This is progression stage. In the consolidation stage is outcome stage. You can see here. The other case show you early stage X-ray, CT, manifestation show you here. Multipolar high density. Early stage SARS of SARS patients. The point primary edema alveolar cavity is filled with edema fluid rich in cellulose. Multiple focal and high density obesity on CT manifestation that the inflammatory reaction is more severe than that of novel coronavirus pneumonia in the same period. Middle East respiratory syndrome, namely the MERS. Number of countries and regions involved 27 countries. Part of a variance host. Dramatically, transmission with contact transmission. Clinical manifestation is usually manifestation as a severe pneumonia and respiratory tract infection, fever, cough, shortness, and breath, and muscle soreness. The onset symptoms. Acute onset repeat progress. For the development of pneumonia, severe case can appear respiratory distress syndrome, septic shock, and multiple organ failure. This case show you Middle East respiratory syndrome. CT manifestation show you density ground glass. Obesity is offensive, where consolidation obesity is related real. It suggested that this kind of pneumonia tends to be a manifestation, part of organization. Pneumonia inflammatory reaction is more severe than the novel coronavirus pneumonia in the same period. The pathology manifestation show necrotization pneumonia with diffusive alveolar injury. Different diagnosis between COVID-19 and H1N1. Distinction from other variant pneumonia. Influenza A virus pneumonia, early unilateral or bilateral ground glass density changes, accompanied by consolidation of lung segmental and lobes, distributed along brachial vascular bundles, subpolar distribution, and different diagnosis between COVID-19 and bacteria and now infectious disease. Fortunately, we can see H1N1 flu. The patients and receive patients sources of infection, transmissible to air droplets. Clinical symptoms generally never fever in the early stage. Symptoms include cough, fever, sore throat, sore throat, and ringing noise. Then, fog congestion and tensile swelling. Pathological features: primary capillary diffuse injury, primary edema, hyaline membrane formation, and autolexis. The imaging manifestation show you ground glass obesity and the consolidation of lungs in the lower field of both lungs. Recommendation of an innovative radiology model for H1N1 virus pneumonia based on pathogenic and pathology suscitate clinical stage and image grading diagnosis. The purpose is because pathology is basically image, and image is external manifestation of pathological changes. Different clinical stages have a different pathological basis and different image characteristics. The image evaluation of the whole course of a disease can be measured to prove diagnostic accuracy. You can see early stage X-ray, CT manifestation, and pathology manifestation. The progression stage and CT finding and pathology finding. Severe stage CT, severe stage manifestation and pathology. H1N1 flow pathology manifestation. This is a specimen. You can see here focus hemorrhage, pitchy hemorrhage. Other different diagnosis between COVID-19 and Bacteria pneumonia. For example, Mycoplasma pneumonia is between a virus and a mycoplasma and is only responsive and to the medicine. Other bacteria pneumonia, you can see here. The bacteria pneumonia. Other different diagnosis between COVID and non-infectious pneumonia. For example, cryptogenic organization pneumonia, acute eosinophilic pneumonia, allergic pneumonia here. Novel virus image diagnostic guideline variants 2 in Chinese and English reprint inside and outside China. This is a COVID-19 image diagnostic standard workflow. If you want to go to detail, you can website. Summary. COVID-19 has the following characteristics: stronger transmission ability and pathogenicity. A clinical concealment. 97% of patients' image finding are proceed. Their clinical manifestation in Wuhan. Nucleic acid detection is high specificity, but poor in sensitivity. Subjects reported epidemiological support and positive image must be isolated and suspected cases. Supporters of computer tomographer sub-millimeter scanning as I did on test to segregate nucleic acid negative patients or patients with typical clinical manifestation or patients with concealed symptoms. This highlights the advantage image technology of being non-invasive, sensitive, and capable of early detection. 6. Combine the winning features of epidemiology, clinical observation, G-reaction protein, lymphocyte reduction, nucleic acid detection, and computer tomography imaging characteristics make the right diagnosis. Acknowledgement. Perfect, thanks to experienced team developing the diagnosis guidelines for novel coronavirus imaging. Also, frontline follow medical works fighting against the outbreak. Let's make uniting efforts a defeat of common enemy of mankind and defeat the outbreak. Thank you very much. Thank you, attention.
Lecture about the guidance for image diagnosis of COVID-19. Right now, we are going to have a question and answer. So we'll have Professor Xuyuan Liu, also Professor Li, and Professor Haobo Xiu, who is also working in the Wuhan hospital. So he knows lots of insights. So and myself will be a panel expert to answer some of the questions. There are a few questions. I'm going to repeat the questions and have one of the panel to answer that. So first question is, what is the main feature observed in CT for COVID-19? So what is the main image features observed in CT for COVID-19? So can Professor Li address this?
Okay, Glenn. This is a very important question. Based on above pathogens, the COVID-19 lung image manifestation can be divided into 4 stages. Early stage is often typical and easy to be and individualization or consolidation, which are more limited and supported in the 2 mid and lower lung field, and are mainly distributed under the pleasure. Progressive disease. There are multiple layers with ground glass activation or consolidation, which are mainly distributed in the middle and peripheral regions of both lung fields, with a small amount of pleural effusion. 3. Several critical. There is latest of the disease on both lungs, show diffuse layers. The wet separate increased density, also known as a wet lung. In this stage, the layer developing repeatedly, its region can be increased by more than 50 in 48 hours. And the treatment is a difficult result in high mortality. 4. Cosmetic layer shrink. Absorbed. 3rd, some cases can be in a primary fibrosis, common clinical risks, leading to multiple OT per layer density, and accompanied by consolidation, virtual influence, and small lobar interval here, blood vessels, and virtual shadows overlapping with the layers. And the layers show dynamic. The density is relatively uniform during the acute period. The density of the observation period is uneven and shadows are not uniform. It's rare to have a confusion and the swelling lymph nodes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. We have a second question from the audience. The second question is, if nucleic acid test is negative and the CT is positive, can we let the patient go home? If that's the case, is isolation or quarantine needed? And if that's needed, then for how many days? Can we have a Professor Xu to answer this one?
Okay, thanks. It's good questions from audience. So we are at the epicenter of the epidemic. In the initial outbreak of this kind of the disease, the so-called COVID-19, we faced the challenging and the dilemma at the beginning of the initial time. We saw a lot of the patients with RT-PCR is negative, but the CT showed some signs or abnormality of the pulmonary. Most happened to this kind of the patient. Under the CT, on the chest CT, it looks like the patch, is the low density of the GGO. Is the lesion usually is focus and also is small size. So at that time, the most of the RT-PCR it is negative. So we should pay attention in that case. We cannot let the patient go outside. You should let the patient isolated in some designated hospital. For example, like in China, we call some shadow hospital or some ARC hospital. So if the patient is look like no severe some symptoms, so you just separate or isolate in some special place. Usually we just keep the isolate for that kind of patient around 14 days. But lastly, in Chinese case, if in the Western country, they have the big house, just a few person, maybe this kind of person just stayed at home with the face mask, with use the separate tools from the family and wash hands. That's very important. So I would like to give that kind of suggestion and advice for that kind of patient. Thanks. That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor Xu. Because of time limitation, we probably can answer one quick question. Okay, so the third one is, what is the frequency of CT examinations and how many CT examinations does a patient have? In the ICU, did you conduct the bedside portable DR images? Can Professor Lee respond to that quickly? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fleming. It's a good question. If patient is under quarantine in the hospital, at least 3 times CT exams are necessary to observe the progress of suspected layers. If patients are very sick and hard to move in ICU, Besides the portable XV will be used. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Professor Lee. Because there are still several other questions. Because of time limitations, we cannot really address that. But we're going to record all those questions to answer that. So in the end, thank you very much for Professor Lee and for our expert panels to participate, to give this excellent webinar. Also, I'd like to thank all the listener, medical professional listener, as well as the non-listener radiologists, healthcare providers, who is such that we can work together to fight against this pandemic, to defeat this novel coronavirus. Thank you very much. It concludes this webinar.
Okay.